for me. I know she was.
They call the superintendent.
She left footprints, but never returned. It was a quiet town, the kind where everyone knows each other's names. The doors are rarely locked, and trouble feels like something that only happens in distant places. But on the evening of November 12th, everything changed. She was only 24, full of life, laughter, and plans. She told her roommate she'd be back in an hour. Just a quick walk to clear her head. The last anyone saw of her was a pair of footprints disappearing into the woods. No screams, no signs of struggle, just silence. The next morning, a search began. What they found was chilling. One single footprint in the mud. Deep, heavy, like someone had been dragged. And then nothing. She was gone. Days passed. The community held on to hope. Flyers were posted. Candlelight vigils lit up the night. But hope slowly turned into fear. And fear turned into horror. Because when her body was found, miles away from where she vanished, it wasn't just a murder. It was a message, a twisted puzzle, a signature. And the only clue the killer left behind? That footprint. What followed was one of the most complex investigations the state had ever seen. A case that shocked even seasoned detectives. A trial that gripped the nation. And a killer hiding in plain sight. This is a story of how one footprint unraveled a mystery. This is a story of justice, obsession, and a town forever haunted. You're watching the Crime Timeline. If true crime stories grip you like they do us, hit that subscribe button, and share this story. Because what you're about to hear will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. A footprint in the blood. November 13th. The town of Maple Ridge woke up to frost-covered windows and the sharp bite of early winter. But the chill in the air that morning had nothing to do with the weather. By 8 a.m., police received the first call. A woman hadn't returned home from her evening walk. Her name was Emily Carter, 24 years old, a teacher, a friend, a daughter, the kind of person who always checked in, always stuck to a routine. Her absence was more than strange. It was alarming. Officers were dispatched to the last place she was seen, a wooded trail just 2 blocks from her apartment complex. Locals called it the Creek Path. Quiet, peaceful, a shortcut used daily by joggers and dog walkers. And that's where they found it. A shoe, just one, lying in the mud, torn at the heel, half submerged, as if discarded in a hurry. Next to it, a single footprint, deep, wide, male-sized, and next to that, a small pool of blood. It was the first real sign something was wrong. The pattern was unmistakable. Someone had been chased or dragged. But here's what truly chilled the officers. The trail just stopped. No more blood. No more prints. It was as if the forest had swallowed her whole. The forensics team was called, and immediately they scanned the entire area, collected fibers, swabbed for DNA, even brought in cadaver dogs. And within hours, a second piece of evidence was found. A torn fragment of Emily's coat caught on a thorn bush, almost 200 feet off the main path. That changed everything. This wasn't a disappearance. This was a crime scene. By nightfall, a full-scale search was underway. Drones, helicopters, mounted patrols. Volunteers poured in. People who had never met Emily stood shoulder to shoulder with detectives, combing every inch of the forest. But every trail led to dead ends, except one. That footprint. Crime scene analysts determined the tread didn't match any of Emily's shoes. It was a men's hiking boot, size 11, worn smooth on the outer heel, possibly from a limp or a dragging gait. And it wasn't fresh. The edges were already drying. Someone had planned this. Someone had stalked her. Someone left that footprint as a calling card. But who and why? As investigators tried to piece together the scene, one thing became horrifyingly clear. Emily didn't run away. She didn't vanish. She was taken. And this footprint, it would be the beginning of a trail that led straight to the unthinkable. You're watching the Crime Timeline. If you're captivated by how the smallest clues crack the biggest cases, make sure to subscribe, like, and drop your theories in the comments, because we're just getting started. The life that was stolen. Who was Emily Carter? to the world. She might have just been a name on a missing persons report, a face on a flyer. But to those who knew her, she was so much more. Emily was 24 years old, born and raised in Maple Ridge, the kind of small town where childhood friendships last a lifetime and neighbors greet each other with warm smiles and borrowed sugar. She was the youngest of 3 siblings and the only girl. Her mother described her as sunlight in a room, while her father, well, he could barely speak her name without tears in his eyes. Emily had just started her first year teaching 3rd grade at the local elementary school, the same school she attended as a child. Her classroom was filled with handmade posters, a bookshelf of fairy tales, and pictures drawn by her students, taped proudly on every wall. Her dream wasn't big in the traditional sense. She didn't want fame or fortune. She wanted to teach, to build a life in the same town that raised her, to someday have a family of her own, a quiet life, a good life. Friends describe her as kind, dependable, and fiercely loyal. She loved coffee with too much sugar, Friday night trivia games, and walks in the woods when she needed to clear her mind. And that's what she was doing that night, just taking a walk. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't looking for trouble. She was just living her life, a life that someone decided to take away. The ripple effect of her disappearance was immediate. Her school closed for 3 days. Her students wrote letters, not fully understanding what had happened, just that Miss Carter hadn't come back. In interviews, her mother clutched one of Emily's sweaters and whispered she was supposed to come home. She always came home. But this time, she didn't. It's easy in true crime stories to focus on the crime, the chase, the suspect, the twist. But at the heart of it all is a person, a life, and in this case, a young woman whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Emily Carter was real. She mattered. And in this documentary, we refuse to let her be forgotten. You're watching the Crime Timeline. If Emily's story touches your heart, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help us share her story far and wide. Let the world know her life mattered. Detectives on the case. The town of Maple Ridge had changed overnight. Posters of Emily Carter were plastered on every storefront window. The trail where she disappeared was now sealed with yellow tape. And everywhere whispers of fear. No one felt safe anymore. Sheriff Don Briggs, a 22-year veteran of the force, took the lead on the case. A man known for his no-nonsense demeanor and quiet determination. This wasn't just another missing person, he said. This was a targeted act. And whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. The footprint found near Emily's torn shoe became the case's cornerstone. It was lifted, photographed, and analyzed by state crime lab specialists. Size 11 hiking boot, a distinct brand, only sold in a few local stores. Detectives canvassed nearby shops, checking receipts, security footage, and inventory records. Within 48 hours, they narrowed it down to 5 recent purchases. 5 men, 5 possible suspects. Each was called in for questioning. 4 of them had airtight alibis, but one, Derek Miles, a 29-year-old local handyman, didn't show up at work the day after Emily disappeared. When questioned, he claimed he was out of town visiting a cousin, but couldn't provide proof. Red flag. Detectives ran a background check. No prior convictions, but a disturbing pattern emerged. In the last year, 2 women in nearby counties had filed restraining orders against Derek. In both cases, the women described him as persistent, creepy, and obsessive. Still, circumstantial evidence wasn't enough. The police needed more. Then came the first major break in the case, a fiber match. Forensic analysts found a red synthetic fiber embedded in the mud near Emily's coat fragment. The same material used in a specific type of work glove. The same gloves Derek had been photographed wearing just 2 weeks earlier on a local job site. Still, that wasn't a smoking gun. It was suggestive, not conclusive. Then the case took a strange turn. A man named Brian Keller, 41, came forward. He claimed he'd been hiking in the same woods the evening Emily vanished. He remembered seeing a white pickup truck parked along the side road, headlights off, engine running. He thought it was odd, but not suspicious at the time. Derek Miles owned a white 2004 Dodge Ram. Now police had enough to act. A search warrant was issued for Derek's home and vehicle. Inside the truck, officers found traces of mud matching the trail soil composition and a torn scrap of fabric red synthetic, possibly from Emily's coat. But the most damning discovery came from a neighbor's security camera. At 7:47 p.m. the night of the disappearance, Derek's truck was caught turning onto the forest road. His alibi unraveled. His story fell apart. Under pressure, Derek lawyered up. He refused to speak. But the case against him? It was only getting stronger. The town was divided. Some believed Derek was guilty. Others thought he was being set up. Theories spun wild on social media. Conspiracy blogs. Even local news anchors asked, is the wrong man being accused? And while investigators followed leads and sorted fact from fiction, Emily's parents waited, hoping for answers. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that the final piece of the puzzle was still out there, waiting to be found. You're watching the crime timeline. If you're gripped by how real police work separates fact from fear, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and drop a comment. Do you think Derek Miles is guilty? Or just a convenient suspect? Because the real twist? It's still coming. One clue changed everything. For weeks, the investigation teetered between frustration and faint hope. The footprint, the glove fiber, the truck, it all pointed toward Derek Miles. But something didn't quite fit. The forensics were compelling, but not conclusive. Detectives were running out of time. The town was angry, anxious. Emily's parents were desperate. And still, Derek sat silently behind his lawyer, refusing to speak a single word. Then came the break, and it came from the most unlikely place. A trash bag. It was found 12 miles from Maple Ridge, in a rural area behind a truck stop, during a routine highway cleanup by a state maintenance crew. Inside were several pieces of burnt clothing and a half-melted hiking boot. It didn't take long for forensics to recover what they needed. The boot, size 11, same brand as the one that left the infamous footprint in the woods. But here's what sent shockwaves through the entire investigation. Embedded in the insole of the boot was a partial fingerprint, and it wasn't Derek Miles. It belonged to Aaron Bellamy, a 34-year-old former construction worker with a long record of petty theft, domestic violence, and 2 years served for assault. He wasn't even on the police's radar. Not until now. Bellamy had once worked at the same school where Emily taught, as a janitor, hired temporarily during summer renovations. He had been fired after reportedly making an inappropriate comment to a staff member. No formal complaint was ever filed, but the school had quietly removed him from duty. Detectives immediately dug into his past. What they found was disturbing. Bellamy had a known obsession with local women, especially teachers. He followed their social media accounts, commented obsessively, and his last known address? Just 4 blocks from the trail where Emily vanished. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station placed him in the area the night Emily disappeared, buying a soda, visibly agitated, and wearing dark clothing. Even more chilling, his white van was seen circling the area twice with no known reason to be there. Police moved fast. A warrant was issued and Bellamy was arrested without incident at a local diner. During the search of his home, they uncovered multiple disturbing items. A notebook filled with women's names, dates, and locations. Emily's name was underlined 3 times. And tucked away in a locked toolbox was her necklace. It was over. Bellamy confessed during a 4-hour interrogation. He admitted to stalking Emily for weeks, watching her routine, planning the night in detail. He never meant to leave behind a clue, but in a panic, he'd thrown away the boots and burned the rest, never imagining a fingerprint would survive the heat. And Derek Miles? He was innocent. The footprint, once the only lead, had misled investigators. Derek's fibers, the truck sighting, it was all a coincidence. A tragic one. The case against Bellamy was airtight. Forensic evidence, surveillance, confession, everything lined up. And just like that, the story flipped. From a dead-end case built on a footprint to a complete unraveling based on a trash bag. You're watching the crime timeline. If that twist shocked you, imagine how it felt for the town. for Emily's family, and for an innocent man nearly condemned. Like this video, comment with your reaction, and most importantly, subscribe to the Crime Timeline for more real stories with real justice. Because one clue really can change everything. Facing the killer in court, the arrest of Aaron Bellamy sent shockwaves through Maple Ridge and beyond. After weeks of uncertainty, the town finally had a suspect, a man whose name had been unknown to most until that moment. But as the wheels of justice began to turn, the question on everyone's mind was simple yet profound. Would justice finally be served? The courtroom was packed on the first day of trial. Reporters lined the hallways, eager to capture every moment. Emily Carter's family sat together, their faces a mix of grief, determination, and hope. Her mother clutched a framed photo of Emily, a silent reminder the young life cut tragically short. The prosecution laid out their case with meticulous detail. Forensics, surveillance footage, and Bellamy's own chilling confession formed the backbone of their argument. Witnesses testified. Colleagues who spoke of Bellamy's obsessive behavior, neighbors who saw his suspicious movements the night of the crime, and detectives who painstakingly pieced together the evidence. One witness brought the courtroom to tears. Emily's closest friend, Sarah Mitchell. Emily was the brightest light in any room, she said, her voice breaking. She didn't deserve this. None of it. We just want the truth and justice for her. But the defense wasn't ready to concede. Bellamy's lawyers argued that his confession was coerced, that forensic evidence was circumstantial, and that doubts remained about the timeline. They tried to paint him as a troubled man, but not a killer. Yet, as the trial unfolded, the evidence told a different story. The fingerprint in the boot, the fibers, the necklace, the meticulous planning revealed in Bellamy's notebook. The jury listened intently. Piece by piece, the puzzle was assembled. During closing arguments, the prosecutor's voice resonated with conviction. This was not a crime of passion or accident. This was cold, calculated, and cruel. But today, we bring justice to Emily. And let this be a message. No footprint is too small to lead us to the truth. After days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Justice, finally. Emily's family released a statement expressing relief but acknowledging that nothing could ever bring her back. We thank the brave men and women who never gave up. Emily's light may have been extinguished, but her memory will burn bright forever. The trial became a landmark case in the region, highlighting the importance of forensic evidence, community vigilance, and relentless police work. It reminded everyone that even the smallest clues, a footprint, a fiber, a discarded boot, could crack the toughest cases. You're watching the Crime Timeline. If this story of justice and perseverance moved you, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the Crime Timeline, where every story matters and every truth is pursued. Let us know in the comments what you think about this case and who you want us to cover next. Because in the end, justice is more than a verdict. It's a promise. Guilty, but is it over? The jury's verdict echoed to the packed courtroom. Guilty on all counts. For Emily Carter's family, it was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but the ache of their loss would never fully heal. Her mother, holding back tears, whispered, "At least now we know. Now, Emily can finally rest." Aaron Bellamy was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, ensuring he would never again walk free in the town he terrorized. Yet, the end of the trial was just the beginning of healing for Maple Ridge. The small community, once fractured by fear and suspicion, began to come together. Candlelight vigils were held in Emily's memory. A scholarship fund was created in her name for aspiring teachers, a legacy to honor the life she had dreamed of building. But closure didn't come easy. Emily's father spoke openly about the emotional toll. The nightmare didn't end with the verdict. We live with it every day. The silence she left behind is deafening. For the detectives who worked the case, it was a triumph tempered by the reality that no amount of justice could erase the pain. Sheriff Don Briggs reflected. Cases like these remind us why we do this work. To find truth, to bring peace, but also to never forget the lies behind the headlines. The trial of Aaron Bellamy also sparked wider conversations about stalking, obsession, and the importance of community vigilance. Local authorities introduced new outreach programs to educate residents on recognizing warning signs. and reporting suspicious behavior early. The footprint that started it all remains a haunting symbol, a reminder that even the smallest clue can unravel the darkest secrets. You're watching the Crime Timeline. If Emily's story moved you, please like this video, share to raise awareness, and subscribe to the Crime Timeline to support real stories that matter. Drop a comment below with your thoughts or who you want us to cover next. Your voice keeps justice alive, because every story deserves closure, and every victim deserves to be remembered. Could it have been prevented? The verdict brought justice for Emily Carter, but questions still lingered in the air, heavy, unresolved, haunting. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Her family, the community, and even the investigators grapple with the painful reality that warning signs have been missed. The stalking behaviors of Aaron Bellamy went unnoticed, dismissed, or quietly tolerated until it was too late. Since the trial, Maple Ridge has vowed to change. Local officials launched awareness campaigns about stalking and harassment, urging victims to speak up and communities to listen. Schools implemented safety workshops for staff and students alike, teaching them how to recognize danger and protect themselves. Emily's parents became fierce advocates for stronger laws to protect women from obsessive and violent offenders. They worked with legislators to push for better reporting systems and harsher penalties. But even with change, the void remains. Detective Don Briggs, reflecting on the case, shared, "No system is perfect. But if this case teaches us anything, it's that vigilance from law enforcement communities and individuals is the key to saving lives." The footprint that once was just a clue is now a symbol of hope, a reminder that every piece of evidence matters and that justice can prevail when we refuse to give up. Emily's story is not just a chapter in a criminal case. It is a call to action, to protect, to listen, to care. Thank you for watching the Crime Timeline. If Emily's story moved you, please like this video, share to raise awareness, and subscribe to the Crime Timeline for more stories that honor victims and seek justice. Leave a comment with your thoughts or who you want us to cover next. Together, we keep their memories alive and fight for a safer future. Because every life lost teaches us something, and every story deserves to be told.